It's a pleasure to be here, and you have been a great audience, not only rapt attention, but incredible bladder control as well. I am awed by, and I'm also awed by the panel. And I've been in public life for 33 years, but it's been as a district attorney, a mayor, and a governor, and the chairman of the Democratic Party. I've focused almost exclusively on domestic issues. I have opinions as a citizen about foreign policy, but I knew very little. But let me tell you, it's been a great learning experience for me. And as a result of what I've learned, on Monday, I will send a letter to President Obama and to Secretary Clinton telling them, one, that the United States is morally bound to do everything we can to ensure the safety of the residents of Camp Ashraf. And two, if Director Free and General Shelton and General Conway and Governor Dean and the rest of these great panelists say that MEK is a force for good and the best hope we have for a third option in Iran, then good Lord, take them off the terrorist list. Take them off the terrorist list and think about that. And you've done a great job inside the Beltway. And you're here in force, and you're here in numbers, and you're here with great cogent arguments, and you're winning the battle inside the Beltway. And the thing that's so amazing is our people, and I believe this with all my heart, they're genuinely fair. They have the same values that you have. They want the same things for themselves as you want for both America and Iran. And they believe in honoring their word. If the American people knew that every single resident, including the 36 who died and all those who were injured, signed a piece of paper with the American government saying, and give up their weapons because we promised to protect them and we failed miserably, we were either directly or indirectly complicit in what happened, the American people would be outraged, But they don't know. And because they don't know, there's no pressure. Government's all about pressure. Governor Dean, where are you? It's all about pressure, right? Competing pressures. We who sit in the decision-making chair get pressure from this side, pressure from that side, pressure from that side. Hopefully, we withstand the pressure and do what's right. It's all about competing pressure. And right now, there's some pressure to keep the status quo. There's some pressure not to interfere in Ashraf because we don't want to upset the Maliki government. And there's no competing pressure. So we need to get out there and paint the picture for the American people. Let them know. Let them know. We're proud of what we did in Kosovo. What the American government and the American people did in Kosovo kept 500,000 Muslim Kosovars from genocide. We're proud of what we did. And if you talk to President Clinton, it's one of the single proudest things he has about his time as president. We're proud about the things we've done right. And when the Libyan crisis was at its peak, when Gaddafi was massed to commit genocide, the American people didn't want to get involved in another conflict, but they also knew that we should keep innocent people from being slaughtered. We can win this battle in the short run about Ashraf and in the long run about what's going to happen to Iran. Because the American people have to be told that there is a force out there that wants to make change, that those young people that you described and the women are ready to make change, that they just need a little assistance, and that they'll create a government that will share the wealth, will have common prosperity around the country, the single most important thing they need. There is a government that will give women their rights. There is a government that will treat Arab, Jew, and Iranian equally. There is a government who will respect religious freedom and tradition. There is a government possible. If we can paint that picture, we can not only in the short run do what's necessary to protect the residents of Ashraf, but in the long run we can create that third option, that it doesn't have to be conflict. As the General Conway said, the third option is regime change, but not regime change at the end of American tanks, but the regime change on Twitter, on Ping, on apps on everything. That regime change that comes from the hearts of people. Because when the hearts of people are united in the right cause, history has shown that you can keep them down for a while. The military force and the public executions that are going on can scare them and inhibit them for a while. But at the end, that's a tidal wave that can't be stopped.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the warm welcome. Like others on the panel, this is my first opportunity to be with you. And I must say, as I've researched your organization and tried to do my homework in preparation for being here, I salute you for who you are, for what you represent, and for what you intend to do, given time and resources. Realizing that the depth and the capacity of the panel, I tried to look at what I could offer to you that might be different from what has been said or will be said this morning. And as one of two, I suppose, career military members, I thought I would try to stay on an area of focus that had to do with strategic interest. But I'm afraid I have to admit up front that I bring to you a somewhat somber message this morning. And that is that I have tremendous concern as we sit or stand here this morning that two nations, the United States of America and Iran, are on a collision course. And if something doesn't happen pretty soon, I see, unfortunately, that those two nations are going to be at each other's throats. And so I have a sense of urgency in terms of what you do and what you represent, and a sincere hope that the third option is an option that could perhaps play and make a difference in where I see us headed today. The U.S. strategic objectives, I think, can pretty much go without any emphasis in front of this group. Our purpose in the Middle East is to, first and foremost, of course, protect our citizens who are abroad. We also want to ensure that the sea lines of communication remain open, that there's free trade, to include, of course, oil that comes from the region with our allies. We want to partner with our friends and allies in the region, and perhaps uniquely to our involvement in the Middle East, where we see the potential for ungoverned spaces and for people that would plot attacks against our nation or those of our allies, we feel a need to take action, and you see this happening in the region today. From my perspective, the strategic objectives of Iran today are first and foremost to sustain the regime. Control to some greater or lesser degree of the Gulf and the Straits of Hormuz. I think that the country intends to extend its influence to the degree that it can in the region and in the other nations. And I think leverage against all of those things is now the development of a nuclear capability. And that, to me, is most troubling. Where those strategic objectives overlap, I think there is potential for confrontation, perhaps even conflict. And I'd like to talk to you about two or three of those areas today where those possible confrontations could occur. First of all is simple miscalculation on the part of either nation, not understanding the impact of what certain actions could mean. Now, there's ample precedence in the region for miscalculation. The hostages that were taken in '79, the tanker wars that I don't think really in the end benefited either side, and of course the shoot down of the Iranian airliner and the tragic loss of life that we saw in 1988. U.S. and Iranian forces are in close contact. We have forces in Iraq up against the Iranian border. We have forces in Afghanistan, and we both have forces at sea in the Gulf. And you know as well as I, tensions are always just beneath the surface in any or all of those locations. I'll share with you, it's kind of a human story, I think, of a communication that was intercepted by the folks at Dubai International Airport. It took place between an Iranian air defense controller and a U.S. aircraft. And it went something like this. Unidentified aircraft, this is Iranian air defense. You are in Iranian airspace. The pilot came back, that's a negative. I'm an American aircraft and I'm orbiting over Iraqi airspace. The Iranian came back and said, you are violating Iranian airspace. Either you leave immediately or we will send up aircraft and shoot you down. The pilot came back after a second and said, Iranian Air Defense, this is the United States Marine Corps F-18 fighter. Send them up. I'll wait. That's not a story intended to talk to the bravado of our pilots, although they're a pretty roguish lot. I tell you the story because that's the hair trigger that we're on in the region. And so it gives us concern. I have a high level of confidence in our U.S. chain of command. I mean, the Secretary of Defense can be notified of events happening in the Gulf in a matter of minutes. I have less confidence in how tightly wound the Iranian chain of command is, and in fact, I even believe there are some rogue elements there that could act on their own. And I think an example of that is what we saw a couple of years back now in March of '07 with the capture of the British Royal Marines and British sailors. What would have happened had perhaps those people been Americans? What would have happened had they attempted to resist, thinking that help was on the way? They were badly outgunned and outnumbered. What would be the result of 15 American bodies clearly floating in international waters? You need only contemplate, I think, the possibilities. More recently, and General Shelton mentioned it, we are seeing a definite uptick in the numbers and therefore the effects of Iranian systems working their way into Iraq. As we commence our drawdown and start to withdraw in earnest, we are seeing many more units and elements of activity taking place in an effort, I think, to try to give the impression that they're causing us to leave. In fact, of course, the drawdown has been long known and well planned. In June, we had 15 soldiers killed in Iraq. That is the highest count of casualties since 2008. 9 of those come as a result of rocket attacks onto our main bases, and ladies and gentlemen, those are Iranian rockets. The other weapon system, of course, is the explosively formed penetrator. The Iraqis have had a tough time manufacturing their own, but the Iranian are of good quality, and we're seeing them in Iraq. Next door to Iran, on the other border with Afghanistan, just in the last week or so, our Marine commanders are reporting a definite, again, surge in sniper activity. And where we saw that happen in Iraq some years ago, those quality snipers were Iranians and Syrians. And so there's intrigue taking place here that, again, as has been mentioned, Secretary Panetta, in some of his first actions, is condemning heartily. And so, again, there is the potential that these miscalculations could have relatively severe impact in a relatively short order. The Middle East is the Middle East, and things happen sometimes in an obtuse fashion, and they happen quickly. And so we simply need to be, I think, concerned about that.